Let me tell you about Johnny O. Johnny O is the thing that I am rocking all the time. Did it all weekend long. Did so in Wisconsin when I was there. I love the Johnny O product, and I'll tell you why. Number one, their patented tweener button. This thing is amazing. It's a hidden button between the second and third button, which is featured on all the Johnny O shirts. The tweener button was first patented to make sure that you're not too buttoned up or you're not too unbuttoned. Get it? A tweener. You're in between. The hidden button solves the age-old second button dilemma. Do I button one or do I button two? It's no longer a dilemma because of that. Every Johnny O shirt comes with their patented tweener button, so you're always looking just right. It is a total game changer. The product looks amazing and it feels amazing. Right now, you can use the promo code ROAM and get 20% off your first order at johnny-o.com at checkout. That's now through May 30th. That's 20% off the regular price button-ups, which come in a range of fabrics, patterns, and styles. And shipping is free for orders over $85. That's johnny-o.com, promo code ROAM, and get 20% off that first order. Free shipping on orders over $85. Go to johnny-o.com for your tweener shirt at 20% off. Check out the wide selection of shirts and other products ranging from polos to shorts, pants, swim, and more. johnny-o.com. I'm telling you, this stuff pops. But as you watch Steph right now, what is your level of concern?
Steph Curry is one of the most balanced people I've ever met. I'm envious of his joy for life, but he's fine. I think he bounces back because he's a great player, and he believes in himself. He's got a high level of confidence, which is why he's been able to do the things he does.
Welcome to the Jim Rome Podcast. This is Ep 80, and my guest is the president of basketball operations and general manager of the Golden State Warriors, Bob Myers. Bob is a two-time NBA Executive of the Year. He was a national champion at UCLA. He is a San Quentin basketball legend. Find me someone better to talk to in the middle of the NBA playoffs than the president and GM of the defending double champs. Hell, find me a better guy, period. Bob's a good friend of both my radio program and the podcast, and he's back here on the side hustle after he absolutely killed it the first time around, 75 episodes back. Before his team tips off against the Rockets in Houston tonight, hear Bob Myers on the podcast right now. Hey, Bob, nothing is easy. Now, follow me on this. It's a little convoluted, but like if you've got that bullseye on your back, you've got to fight that, and then complacency, and then the fatigue of playing late into every single season. And then you've got this season, which is probably no different, except that every season is so different. So let me ask you this. What made this season so unique? And how do you feel about where your team is right now, up 2-1 on Houston?
Oh, man. A lot of stuff in that question. Every season's kind of its own movie or book. So you just don't know. You start reading it, and it takes all these different twists and turns. And I think what you learn in this business, or maybe in life, is that you have to kind of weather the down moments because they're gonna come, right? The movie and book aren't even good if it's all great the whole time. So you learn a lot. I think the more I'm in sports or have been in sports, the fascinating thing is you get to see people in a very raw environment, very unbridled, high scrutiny, highly emotional. High stakes. We put these huge stakes on sports outcomes, which is great, right? I love sports too, but there's a pressure component. There's a lot of money. There's a lot riding on wins and losses, and so kind of how do you live in all that stuff? For me, I live in it in the role I'm in, but players live in it the way they do. Coaches. I mean, the life of a professional coach is. The listener's perspective of it is so different than I think what it actually is. If you live with these guys and move with them and see what they're up against, they make a lot of money, but that's one box you check in life. It doesn't mean that everything else is great. So for me, the fascinating thing, Jim, for this year and as the longer I'm in it, is to see people and see how we react to things. So for us this year, yeah, there's been moments, and then trying to do it again. And I love the analogy of kind of climbing Mount Everest, and it's like is the fourth time you climb it as meaningful as the first? The truth is, man, I mean, I hate to say it, I don't know, right? I mean, there's a hunger. So how do you find it? and that's the challenge. But there's people that succeed over and over and over again, and I think the ones that do it, yourself, like your success on your show, I mean, what keeps you going and working? It's because there's something in there that isn't moved by money or fame. It's moved by your own pride and your own work ethic and however you got that, and just doing your ultimate best. And so if you put a lot of people like that together, it's pretty cool to watch it come to fruition, no matter if you win a championship or not.
Bob, this is why I love talking to you. That is so interesting. There are so many interesting elements in that response. But let me ask you about the one thing you started to say, that the listeners really don't know exactly what it's like. The perspective is kind of skewed. Like, what do the listeners think it's like, and what's it actually like for these guys?
It's not glamorous, I'll tell you that. But it's okay. I mean, like we watch movies, and we think the actor just showed up and made the movie and went home. There's a set, there's a trailer these guys live in. They're eating food. They make money. Not with your family. You walk on the street, somebody wants a picture, that's fine, that's great, but maybe somebody says your movie sucked. Maybe they tell you that you sucked, they don't want you on your fantasy team. I promise you, athletes are not machines. Coaches, anybody. Hey, Jim, your show sucked if you're driving away, or this podcast you did with Bob Myers sucked. You hear that. You're not made of metal. So you drive off and you go, I'm not going to listen to that. But you heard it, and that hurt, right? And it should. Who wants to be told that stuff? So we are in you have to almost desensitize yourself, and that's not fun. Like, who wants to walk around going, I don't care what anybody says? Or that guy, somebody yelled at me. Even the people that are listening, like, when you drive to work and somebody honks at you, we all want to pretend like that doesn't bother us. It bothers you, man. And whether it's for 5 minutes or 10 or later that afternoon, you're thinking, why did that guy honk at me? I didn't even do anything. That guy was crossing the street. He yelled at me because I was a little bit in the crosswalk. What was that all about? Imagine having that come at you all the time. And people are listening going, so what? I'd rather play a sport and make money. That's fine. That's okay. There's so many good parts of it, like any job. But understand there's travel, there's displacement of families, there's pressure, there's publicity, there's fame. You think fame only means good? You know that. It's not. In some ways, I guess it's great. In some ways, it's not. So I think the interesting thing is, as the more we can imagine someone's life, but I think sometimes we want to hold up athletes or celebrities as perfect because it makes us feel better. And we don't want to see behind the curtain. Like, I don't want to know that the players are just sitting in their room waiting for the game. I just want to turn on the TV and they're in Houston tonight. So I don't know. You've interviewed a ton of people. I'm sure you feel it in the interviews. Like, this guy everything should be perfect. But nobody's life is. So I think maybe people don't want to hear that. Maybe that shatters some myth. But it's okay. I think we'd all be better off if we had a little more empathy for each other's occupations. But some people don't want to go that far with it.
No, Bob, I think that most people hear what they want to hear, and I've done this a long, long time now, and I've always said, listen, we don't know any of these guys. We just don't know any of these guys. Based on who? Based on what? Based on their style of play, based on a short interview, based on even a long-form podcast. Maybe they know me because I've been on the air for 30 years, or maybe they know you because you and I have had several awesome conversations. But you're right. We really don't know what goes on, and I think you got to have that empathy. What I'm amazed by, like what you said, the world is pretty nasty, and these guys know what they signed up for, and you take the good with the bad, but the sense of you really need to desensitize yourself, you don't strike me like that at all. Steve Kerr does not strike me like that at all. The culture of your organization is not one of desensitization, but you have to have a thick skin, so where do you draw the line?
Man, that's why I think it's who you work with, right? It's who you walk the journey. It's who props you up on the days where you're kind of sitting there going, man, if Steve says they're ripping me for coaching, or I feel like, they say our roster isn't good enough or whatever, you prop each other up. You go, don't worry about that. Listen, we got what we need, or you got to make a tough call, and you didn't make the right call if I say that to him. It's who you. The truth is, in our society, you spend more time with your coworkers than your spouse, which is your kids. You better darn well like who those people are, because we're investing a ton. Our culture is hugely driven by work. And so if that's the case, and I'm in it too, I'm not sitting there judging because I'm in that type of job, well, I learned, and I think or people, I'm sure people listening, there's you don't know how long you get to do whatever you get to do. You don't know how long you get to live with your parents or your friends or your own life. I don't know. So make it, work with pretty decent people. And to the desensitization thing, remember that movie Fever Pitch where Jimmy Fallon's and they're sitting there and the Red Sox just lost and they cut to a scene and a couple of the players are eating in the bar where the fans are, and the fans are, drinking their beers at the bar, and Fallon's there with his buddies, and they look over, they go, "That's Johnny Damon. What is Johnny Damon doing? What's he doing eating that steak right now?" And his buddy's like, "Well, what, are they not supposed to eat?" And it's almost like that scene was funny, but at the same time, I promise you, you lose a game that you're supposed to win, or it's the finals and you lose, and the fans are there, and the player walks in. What's he doing here? Why is he having a glass of wine? And it's like, well, he's got to figure out how to live.
That guy's eating.
So there's this, I don't know, man. You probably know more than I do. You could probably answer this better than me, how we view our athletes and our coaches and we serve at the pleasure of the public. Not me as much, because I'm not really in it, like the spotlight in it, but we're supposed to make people happy. But, man, does it feel good when you do it. But most of the time you don't. Most of the time you don't win a championship. So what do you do then?
No, that's tough. Exactly right. I mean, you're there to entertain, but then people put so much emphasis on it. Not empathy, but emphasis, and they want it so badly. So, Bob, when you look at it, take Steph. Steph seemingly has not necessarily been himself of late. Maybe not shooting the ball the way we've come to expect of late. Been in a little bit of foul trouble. I mean, you're known, and already you see it again in the conversation, for your legendary calm. You don't overreact. You don't panic. This is no different. But as you watch Steph right now, what is your level of concern?
I saw him yesterday. We talked. The thing I said to him was, it must be hard to be, not even, let's say he had 50 points. It's still hard. I don't want to sit here and, say that Steph Curry, he's got a wonderful life. It's awesome. But, it all still falls back on who's your family and who's your friends, good or bad. Like I said, it's who you celebrate with and who you agonize with, and that's what gets you through whatever you get through. And Steph Curry is one of the most balanced people I've ever met. I'm envious of his joy for life. It's really a unique character. I think that's why a lot of people like him so much, is he's a happy person. He loves his job. You can't not see that. You like him or not, everybody's own, they can do whatever they want with how they feel about him. But I tell you what, he's a really decent person. And he's heard all the accolades. And, when you're at that level that he's at, a tiny blip, and, they'll question you. So, man, I can't keep coming back to this, but, who am I? I have no idea what to say. I could pretend to say some stuff, but all I said was, hey, I know you know the answers to these questions, and I'm confident you'll get them. But what does that even mean? He's probably, we've known each other. I started, and he had the ankle stuff, and been through losing and winning. You hope if you work with somebody long enough, you have a little bit of a foundation. I think we do. That I was just saying you care, if I can do anything. But he's fine. I think he bounces back because he's a great player, and he believes in himself. He's got a high level of confidence, which is why he's been able to do the things he does.
And he generally does bounce back pretty quickly. So I would imagine if he's going through a kind of a challenging spot or time, it always helps when you've got a 7-footer who seemingly can do what he wants, when he wants, to whoever he wants. You've seen Kevin Durant get to his zone before. Have you ever seen him on a heater quite like the one he's been on this postseason?
He's focused. No, I honestly, with him, you don't ever, I guess he's so talented that you just think he's capable of anything. Every time he shoots, these are the best players. You think it's going in. I just feel lucky to watch him close. I go to all the games. I get to see Kevin Durant. It's pretty cool. I grew up loving basketball, watching NBA, just going to an NBA game. So sometimes you got to remind yourself, for you're I get to talk to some amazing athletes. That by itself is great. Forget about how long you get to do it or who it is or how much you get paid to do it. You just get to do it. That's a pretty nice thing to experience. And so for me, just to watch him, watch our team, and watch him perform up close and have that in my life to look back on in however many years and go, man, I always say that about the finals. Even when we lost Game 7 in the finals, I really don't sit on the floor. I sat on the floor. And I was sitting there going, this is a memory. It's a painful one, but this is life. You're living life staring at something like a Game 7 in the NBA Finals at home and you lose. It's like, wow. So we don't remember a lot of things, but some things, the more things like that you can live, good and bad, it's a full life. That's what you want to do, I think. And I think for me to watch Kevin Durant is, I'm not going to, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, I'll say, I got to see that guy, I got to know that guy. It's pretty cool.
It takes more than hard work to make it to the pros. It takes smarts. The kind of smarts that can read a defense and pick it apart. Now, hiring is no different. You need smarts to find the right people, but you don't need to spend years honing your game. You simply need ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. Try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/clones. ZipRecruiter.com/CLONES. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. There are guys who are in this thing, and guys, you've played for guys like this. You know how this works. There are guys where, winning is relief and losing is death and misery, and I don't think you're that guy. I think you've got this amazing life-work balance. I think you have this amazing perspective. That said, when you mention that loss, like when you think of things, do you think of the wins, the big wins first, or the tough beats?
I think the loss.
Right.
I hate to say it, the losses. It's just, I don't know. I mean, the loss, because then it's when you win, you don't go, what could I have done differently when you win? Because you won. And there are things you could have done differently, to be honest. Maybe one by more or one faster. I don't know. But I think I've changed. I think it's hard. I don't know. Here's a bad example. Let's say you're 13 and you don't have much money and you're growing up and you're waiting for your driver's license and somebody says, and you got a picture of a red Ferrari on your bedroom wall and you're like, oh my, if I could get that Ferrari, my life would be it. Like that's all I need. When I turn 16, if somehow I won the lottery and got that Ferrari, everything would be great. And fast forward 3 years and you got that picture, you stare at it all the time, and 16th birthday, you pass the driver's test, and you go out in your driveway, and somehow, by magic, you got a Ferrari. The problem with that is, I almost wish that upon everybody. You get in the Ferrari, you drive it, and you go, it's pretty unbelievable, exactly what I thought. Week goes by, still pretty good, but not, I had a bad day at school, and this girl doesn't like me, and whatever, my friend said something to me, so I'm going to get in my Ferrari and drive. Well, it's not really doing the trick. Now 2 weeks go, 3 weeks, a year, all of a sudden, you want to go for a drive? Nah, I don't. I'll ride my bike. I don't want to drive the car. And the point is that,
I get it.
I think we all should, whatever it is I don't know what it is for you. Maybe you had to get in syndication. Maybe for you it was the X amount of money you made, or I don't know. There's something in your life where you go, if I could just be on the evening drive, and you got that. If I could just be syndicated, I got a TV show. Okay. So you tell me. You've probably achieved more than I have. So what did it do? I don't know. What did that do for you? Did it change your life? It's a great success, but what does it mean? It means you accomplished some stuff. So that's good. Now what? And I don't know the answers to this stuff.
First of all, I've not achieved more than you, Bob, but I think it's a really fair question. I'll never forget when I went to UC Santa Barbara. Bob, I remember I had a professor that I thought, politically, and I keep politics out of the show, but I thought he was a really interesting guy, and I remember he came out of nowhere. He wasn't a guy that had been there a long time, and he was really very, very, very liberal, and I was fascinated by the guy. And I remember him looking at the entire class one day and saying, let me tell you something, kids. A new bike ain't going to change your life. A new bike will not change your life. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what, man? A new bike would change my life. It would be really freaking cool. But it's so true, right? Like we all lock in.
It would change your life for a week.
Yeah, it did. Exactly. Until some other drunk kid stole it And then where was I to go? But I think the point is fair. Like, we keep grinding and grinding and grinding for either the shiny thing or the thing that brought us prestige or whatever it is. And then you get there, and then what? It's great for a little while, but then what? Then what? What do you do? I don't have the answer to that. Do you?
No, and I think, you know what it is? I'm not good at this stuff. Like, I don't want the listeners to think I know. I question these things because I don't have the answers, not because I have the answers. But honestly, I think what it's about is something good happen. The good things in your life happen and the bad, and who's there for that, right? Like, it's your wife, it's your kids, it's your friends, whatever. That's it, right? I think that's it. And I guess if you do well financially, that allows you to do things for other people and your family, so that's good. But, you know, I'll tell you what, you know, to wrap the bow on this thing, I think it comes down to, so how, I guess I'll ask you, you don't have to answer, but I'm curious, what is your definition of success?
First of all, I want to go back to your first point and all that, and then I'll answer the second one. You're right. It's when it all goes down, who's there for you? You know, your whole point about I wish that every kid could get a Ferrari at 16 to see what it would be like. I wish that everybody could have a quarterback come over the table on TV and deal with that and then see who's there for you, because then you know who your friends are. Then you know who rushes in to pile on. And now we're getting somewhere, right? Now we're talking about what you're talking about with your guys, and then you know who's going to stand with you when it all goes down.
Yep. So, and you remember, and here's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know right now, if I said, Jim, write down who is there. There's probably like 5 names you put on a piece of paper.
That's it.
And you remember this. Not only do you remember who, you remember how, you remember when they called, you remember when they showed up, you remember what they said, you remember how they do it, and then you say, why did you remember that? You know why I remember that? Because it meant something. And you know what else I remembered? All the people I thought were something, and they weren't. And here's the bad news. You will never recover that. Not you, them, the people that were not available or went a certain way. No. You can't have that back. Some things I can't forget, and it's not forget. I'll forgive you, but some things. Sorry, man. Like what you did in that moment. No, I can try. I'll try. I don't want to be upset at anybody, but that time you got to be there. You can't come at me like that. And I think that's. You're right. Like what you said.
You forgive because you have to. You can't carry that around with you every single day, but you don't forget. You don't forget. And you know who will be there. In terms of what's success, you know, Bob, what's success? It seems to me, and I'm not here yet, and I think about this quite a bit, it's self-actualization, right? It sounds like so cliche when you hear athletes say, I only focus on what I can control, and I don't worry about what I can't control, but that'd be the biggest waste of time ever. All any of us could ever do is be our best version of ourselves, right? And believe me, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. That to me is success. Are you making good choices consistently? I mean, I hate that whole, can you get a little better every single day? But can you get a little better every single day? And how do you stay mindful? And how do you stay present? And how do you maintain that balance? That to me is success.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right. And it's a constant evolution. And I think the one that grabbed me was, because you know what? You tell me. I'll tell you what my definition is. But what does everybody think success is?
Money, shiny things, big house, big car, vacation house.
Fame, money. That guy's successful.
Right.
We say it. We don't even know what we're saying. That guy's successful. What? He's got like 5 kids from 5 different. What do you mean success? Like what? How? Well, you know, he doesn't, you know, because he's got $100 million. Oh, okay, so he's rich. Because is that successful? I don't know. I mean, but unfortunately, again, I fall into it too. That guy's really successful. He started a company. He's a real jerk. Yeah, but he's successful. Based on what? My favorite definition is the people that know you best love you the most. So we can go, you know, I picture all the time like Thanksgiving dinner of somebody that has it all on the outside. Who's sitting there with them on Thanksgiving or Christmas? I don't know what. Pick a holiday, and you tell me like they got whatever they got. Is that success? Like, and then you tell me somebody doesn't have much and they're surrounded by good people or friends, and you go that, and their kids, and you know they're not famous. I don't think you do what you do to be famous. I don't do what I do to be famous. I don't understand. I'm probably the wrong person to ask about fame.
No, you don't, Bob. I know you don't.
I just can't understand. Like I do understand people that want to make money. I get that. I understand that. But fame is another one that I think again, like it's unfortunate because I think when you seek that stuff, it's dangerous. But for me, it's really, you can be publicly successful and privately. When they do the 30 for 30 or the outside the lines or the behind the music and they interview the daughter or the son, and they go, yeah, I never really knew my dad. Like, he wasn't around. So to me, that's the dad. Then I'm done. Like, I don't care how many Oscars or Grammys or championships. If your kid's interviewed and you're in your life story and they go, yeah, my dad, he came around in my 20s. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't go for that. Like, that's not, I can't.
What's worse than regret? What's worse than regret? Who wants to be sitting there at 70 or 75 and having all these regrets and being unable to fix things, and all those things that you work so hard for? What do they mean then? What do they mean at the very end?
Yeah.
They mean nothing.
So, yeah. And I think, we're talking about, I think sports is such an awesome thing because it puts like a spotlight on people. And all the things that, it's fascinating, like the sports culture. And I love it. I really do. I'm not against any of it. It's just so interesting to kind of live. And I get to be with the little man behind the curtain at Wizard of Oz. I get to see the megaphone. I don't get to look at the big voice behind I don't walk up to the curtain and hear a big voice. I get to sit behind the curtain and watch the little guy with the megaphone and go, what are we doing? Like, who are we fooling? Like, so it's such a different perspective. And I think, I'll tell you this, I didn't know, I don't know how you grew up, but I didn't know really what the players were doing for breakfast or what kind of shoes they even wore, which is a big deal. I think I might have known, like Michael Jordan had his Air Jordan. But to be fair, I didn't know who the GM of the Warriors was when I grew up. I didn't know what car they drove into the arena. I didn't know what they thought about certain things. I knew that on the next day I'd open up the paper and they scored 20 points and they won or lost and had 5 rebounds. I knew that. But now, man, that's like, who even opens up and looks at the box? I don't even know if people look at box scores.
So weird, isn't it? It's so weird and so different. I agree with you. Like, Bob, I'm older, but I can tell you my earliest recollection, I can remember fighting my dad for the sports page because that's all there was back in the day. He taught me to read the box scores, and I remember him telling me when I was in second grade, your guy's Gail Goodrich. You love Gail Goodrich. Yeah. Write Gail Goodrich a letter, ask him for an autographed picture. And sure enough, that thing came out a month later. And it was like the greatest thing ever, man. It was so awesome.
Wow.
It was so awesome. Cool. But you're right. That's all you knew. That's all you knew.
Yeah. And it's okay, but I think it's not going to get less.
Get off my lawn, man. Gail Goodrich was my guy. Get the hell off my lawn. You can shoot it now. There's a good Bruin right there, huh?
I like that story, though. That's
that was great. And can I tell you even better? You want even better? So I meet him one day. And plus, you know how it is. You can tell me when you first met one of your idols. We all want to go well, and it does not always go well. Yep. I had a few. I had like 3. Terry Bradshaw, Ron Say, Gail Goodrich was my guy. Would you believe that I finally met Gail Goodrich and interviewed him at the opening of a Kmart in Goleta, California, Santa Barbara? That's how I met my idol, Gail Goodrich.
That's great.
Crazy, right? Who was your first guy? Who was your first guy, and when did you meet him? Your first idol?
Me? Meeting him?
Yeah. Who was your first? Like, who's the guy you really admired and looked up to as a kid?
Oh, man. Chris Mullen was a guy that he'd come to our high school open gyms, and he's quiet. I really like Chris Mullen.
I love Mullen.
He you know what I liked? You know what I like about Chris, and still, is he's authentic. Like, even and at that time I met him, he might have been going through some stuff. I don't even know. But I just liked the guy. Like, he was just a real guy. Like, I don't know how to explain it the right way. I mean, you might have better words, but I'll tell you what. He was what I thought, and to me that's a win. When you meet somebody that's a famous person and they're what you thought, that's a victory. Because most of the time, man, it's not what you think, and it goes the wrong direction. I mean, if you can meet your expectations, like whether it was Gail or anybody else, or Ron Say or Bradshaw, you go, that's cool. That guy's a good. I met him. I thought he'd be a good guy. He was. The hardest ones are when you meet somebody and it's like, whoa, dang.
Oh, it's the biggest letdown ever. Look, I know it can be frustrating, especially if you're running late or you're in a hurry. You find yourself at a railway crossing and you're waiting for a train. You don't see the train. The signals are going. The train's not there. You're like, screw it. I'm just going to sneak across the tracks. Don't do it. ever for any reason, because trains are going a lot faster than you expect them to be. They cannot stop. Even if the engineer hits the brakes right away, it can take a train over a mile to stop. And by that time, what used to be your car is a crushed hunk of metal. And what used to be you, well, let's not go there. You don't want to think about that. The point is, you can't know how quickly the train is going to arrive. The train can't stop even if it does see you. The result is a disaster. If the signals are on, the train is on its way. And you need to remember only one thing. You need to stop because trains can't. The story of how you interviewed with Joe Lacob is awesome. And again, I know you're not looking to make it about you, but the fact is, you were a really good young agent and attorney with no connection to the new owner of Golden State. You grew up in the Bay Area. How did you get on his radar? How did you get that job?
I don't know. He obviously he's brilliant in his he built a bit. I mean, he didn't come from anything. He grew up in the East Coast and made his own way, and really smart guy, and built companies through Kleiner Perkins and invested in people. And I think what he saw, I guess what he saw in me was someone that had some skills to help, this organization. And I think, how I met him was the agent thing was good for me. It was a good networking thing, but it wasn't. I never felt comfortable in it entirely, and so I was always kind of hoping for something else. But I've been in it 14 years, and then the guy I met through the agent thing was Danny Ainge, who had Kendrick Perkins I had with the Celtics and Scalabrine. And so Joe Lacob was a minority partner of the Celtics prior to buying the Warriors. And so when Joe had bought the Warriors, I think he'd had them for about 8 months. And I called Ainge and said, hey, man, could you introduce me to Joe? I'd love to kind of meet with him and see if I could ever work there. Not saying I got to be the GM or anything. I just said I'd love to try to maybe go work for the Warriors. So I did one of the deals where, I think I told Joe, I'll be up in the Bay Area, I think it was in December, with my family, if there's any window of time. And I basically gave him a 2-week frame of when I'd be up there. And I was going to be up there 3 days, but tip to anybody, just say you're going to be there, and if he says I'm available this day, just fly up and go. So that's kind of what happened. He said, I can see you on this day. I wasn't planning on being there on that day, but I flew up and met with him. And we just talked about basketball. We're talking about the team and what we thought. It wasn't a lot of business stuff, just basketball. And I left, and I got in the car with my dad. My dad drove me, and my dad said, how'd it go? And I said, well, that's not happening. Not hiring me. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, we just talked about basketball. He didn't say, what can you do? We didn't do it. We just talked about basketball. And then about 3 months later, Joe called. And I remember where I was. I was in Brentwood, L.A., and he called, and I pulled over. There's I think now it's a Walgreens. I don't know what it was, CVS or Walgreens on Save Vicente. And I remember where I was in the parking lot when he started talking to me, and he said, hey, are you serious about wanting to come? And he said, what could you do? And I said, I just think I could help. I mean, I've worked on the business side of the NBA for a while, and I don't know, whatever you want me to do. And then a couple of days later, we figured out quickly a role and started off as an assistant GM. And he said, maybe one day you can be GM, but he didn't promise that. And that's it, man.
That's awesome.
Like how'd you get to where you are? There's all these tiny little things I just skipped over that get you. I mean, it starts with how'd you meet Danny Ainge? How'd you meet this guy? We all have these things that align us for these moments in time. So there's a lot of things that happen before that to get me even to meet with him.
You never know. And then, Bob, how about, I pick my spots with respect to your time. You do have a pretty important game tonight. But a final thought, when your UCLA roots mean very, very much to you. Almost all of us love where we went to college. Those are our formative years. That's what we remember. You were one of the guys on the 95 championship squad. Maybe the numbers do not jump off the stat sheet necessarily, but that's an amazing basketball year in your life. Where would you, when you look at your basketball life, an amazing life you've had, where would you rank that year, and what are the things that you think about first when you think about 95?
Man, that was the young, naive, hard to believe, surreal part of my, the first bigger-than-life moment for me where you're kind of wow, this really happened. I remember leaving the Kingdome in Seattle on the bus, and I was listening to a song think we had like Discmans or something, and there was no iPods, right? And it was that, I think it was that Natalie Merchant song, like These Are the Days. I don't know who sings it. But anyways, it was kind of like, I remember sitting in the bus window looking out as we were driving away going, these are the, like, this is a day, like, this is a moment, and, like, this is big. Like, this is going to stick. Like your graduation day and whatever big things we have, your kids. And I remember that year, like I said, I didn't do anything I practiced. The years I played were after, I played my junior, senior year when it actually mattered, when the game was not, we weren't up 30, where it didn't matter if I was in or not. But my sophomore year I didn't play, that's when we won it. But I remember, it's funny because somebody would ask me, when did you think you had a chance to win the championship? That year, which was my sophomore year. And I would tell them my freshman year, we were playing in the NCAA tournament in Oklahoma City against Tulsa, and it was halftime of the game. We were down 20-something points. We were a 4 seed. I think they were a 13 or something like that. And Ed O'Bannon came back, and he was our best player. And he literally, quiet guy, nice guy, quiet leader. And he comes back in the locker room and picks up a chair and literally throws it against the wall and goes, I can't show my effing face back in L.A. This is never going to happen again. And just screaming. And the coaches walk in. Jim Herrick was our coach, and literally just stopped. Because this was so out of character and for Ed to be doing this. And he just went on a tirade and just called everybody out and said, this I'm coming back next year, and this is never going to happen. And from that moment on, he showed up. He came back for his senior year. And there was no question of whose team it was, and no question with who was going to lead us. And literally, he took us to the champion. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, again, everybody goes, well, you beat Arkansas, this and that. It starts way earlier, man. Like, it all and that's the best part of the story. When did you think you might have a chance to win a championship? When we were down 25 the year before in the NCAA tournament. That's when I thought we might. Look at Virginia this year. We lost to a 16 seed. I bet at the end of that game, Tony Bennett had to suffer and face all the wrath of media and fans and everybody. And I bet he looked at the players in the locker room. I don't know any of this, and I bet he said, "You know what? I'll go forward with this group. We just had a historically bad loss, but I'm looking at how they handled it. I don't know how they handled it, but I bet they handled it right because they came back and won a championship the next year. So." That's what's interesting to me about sports. It's not, well, Virginia did this and that, and this guy hit a shot. What did they do when they lost to the 16 seed? That's the story.
That is such a great story about Ed O'Bannon. I love that because you're right. That's Ed O'Bannon. That's not how he was. Draymond, I could see Draymond throwing a chair through a wall, but Ed O'Bannon did it differently. And finally, Bob, to your point, this is how to come full circle, this is how we start this conversation. The beauty of sports is how people react to this strife, to the adversity. Have you ever seen a calmer, cooler, more collected guy than Tony Bennett? Maybe your guy Steve Kerr, maybe, but than Tony Bennett, I've never seen a coach like that ever.
And here's the thing. I agree, totally agree. When did it become right to be crazy on the side? Like I don't know. Does that mean you're trying harder?
You care more?
I don't know. Yeah, you care more because you yelled and loudly. I don't.
Right. You're more competitive.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does. I think many people think that, unfortunately, because I don't think it means you care more if you yell more. I don't subscribe to that theory.
No, I think Jay Wright's a pretty cool character. I think he cares a lot. I think Tony Bennett's an extremely cool, collected guy. I think he really cares. There's no way you could come back from losing to a 16 and win it all next year unless you cared a lot.
Right, but here's the thing. Like, I think we're decently bright. We have to kind of justify. He cares. We think he cares. It's like it should be obvious. Like the guy played in the NBA. He scrapped his way as a fringe guy to play in the NBA. He's do you think the guy doesn't have drive? Like you said, Steve Kerr. Yeah, you think he doesn't to accomplish what he had? You don't think he has a fire in there that's burning pretty hot because he doesn't display it the same way as others might. So, yeah, I mean, that's fascinating. Like John Wooden, growing up, coming through UCLA, a lot of his stories, they said he didn't even really get up off the bench, during games much. Just sat there.
Speaking of the bench, we got Game 4 coming up. Bob, I I can't say how much I appreciate this. You and I could do this for another hour, but you have a game and you got to get ready, and I appreciate your thoughts. I'm glad that we could talk about something other than just the X's and O's and the matchups. It's so good to come together. You know, I appreciate this relationship very much.
Thanks, man. I always love having a chance to talk to you. So anytime, man, just let me know.
Contractors can rely on Ferguson to provide a winning game plan for any job, any day. Thanks to their pro pickup service, you can choose from thousands of products to order online and pick up in store, which makes doing business with Ferguson the easiest part of your day. Huge thanks to Bob Myers for stepping out in the middle of a playoff series to track that podcast. That's how you show up. Appreciate you very much, Bob. That's now 80 podcasts. 80, a big number. I am proud of all 80. Trust me on this. None of them have aged out at all. So if you missed an episode, go back in the catalog, just drop the needle. You'll be glad you did it. And if you never, ever want to be out of the loop, just click subscribe right now. Every single episode that I drop from here on out will find your phone. You don't need to look for it. It will find you. EP 81 is next week, but your voicemails are right now. Thanks for listening. I'm out.
First new message.
Hi, I'm calling to offer my deepest condolences to Tyler in Edmonton. His girl left him for his uncle. But don't worry, Tyler. You didn't lose your sister, just your turn. This is Darren in Cunit. I am out.
Message deleted. Next message.
Jim, Bud, and Laguna Niguel. I'm thinking the new guy. I immediately thought Lex Luthor. I'm out.
Message deleted. Next message.
Romy, Eric in Orlando, buddy. Just checking in, see if you heard about the 750-plus pound swordfish taken off of Islamorada down here in the Keys a couple of weeks ago. It's a pretty amazing story. The guy didn't keep it. He just staked it out and gave it to everybody at the marina and kept some for himself. Pretty cool story. 8-hour fight, and the fish dragged him 20 miles off the hookup point. Let me know if you want me to call in and I can elaborate more. Take care. Bye.
Message deleted. Next message.
Hi, Jim. It's Bella B in Calgary. I actually just wanted to know how the new bald guy was working out. Does he like his job? Do you like him? That's all.
Message deleted. You have no more messages.